shop tonight doing valve job on this 2002 Kawasaki ZRX 1200R. It's cold as shit. So you have to take measurements of all your valve clearances as they sit. I mean, this bike's at 33,000, so it's due. And I'll show you in a minute, but what I do, there's timing marks and stuff, but I mean, bah humbug, really. So you turn the cam lobe, so it's 180 degrees from the valve and the shim, you know, so it's the skinny part of the cam lobe is on top of the valve, and that's where your gap is going to be. And there's clearances for intake and exhaust. I write them down so I don't forget, but I'll tell you later. And so you take that measurement, and then the valves, it gets tighter as time goes on. So you're going to need to add shims in that increases the gap. So say you measure it and it's at, you know, 0.12 and it needs to be at 0.24. You take the old shim out, you measure it, you subtract 0.12, put the new shim in, and then you should have that 0.24 gap. It's pretty easy. There's a couple things I do, just being nitpicky. Like when you put the new shim in, I always give it a full crank or two to make sure that the lobe is fully seating it into the top of the spring retainer. And you know, other than that, it's just tedious. You just have to go to every single one, back and forth. You know, you want to buy a full shim kit, like this Hot Cams one. It's got everything you need. I'm already doing the valve job on this. I'm already running out of 2 sizes, so I'm gonna have to order some more to finish it up. And then while you're in there, you know, you can do the no flows from Quick. It's plugs part of the emission system and valve cover gasket and all that. You might as well do the emissions delete, block the reeds off in the valve cover and all that. On this particular one, we got that far, and I said let's just do pods and jets and headers and a timing advancer because it needed a valve job. So in here you can see the valve spring and the retainer, and you can see the shim. The shim is this part, this little cup right here. Right there. So you want to rotate the camshaft here. Watch the large part of the lobe, the lift part. Hit that rocker arm and push that spring and valve down. And then as you rotate it, it lifts back up, and you rotate it until the lift, the highest part of the cam, is 180 degrees from the valve. I'm sure someone will give me shit about that, not using timing marks and whatever, but fuck them basically. And then you want to measure, you take your feeler gauge and you want to measure right here, you know. So like I said, it'll get tighter. So this one I've already done, and it's 0.102. Now that's the intake side, and the intake specs are the tolerance is 0.13 to 0.19. So this is 0.10. So when we take that shim out, to increase the gap between the cam lobe and the rocker arm, you need to decrease the size of the shim. So it's not as easy as just doing the math, and I mean it is as easy as doing the math. It's not as easy as doing the short math and then just swapping one in. You actually need to take the old shim out, measure it, and then do the math. So to take it out, it's kind of hard to see from the angle, but you push down this rocker arm. It's on a there's springs on a shaft, so you just slide it over like that and drop it down and let it rest up against the spring. I did it with one finger. It shouldn't be very hard. If it's hard, you probably have the cam in the wrong spot. So then you want to remove this shim. They make tools for this too, but again, whatever. So you get your shim out, and then what you want to do is you want to measure the thickness of it. 2.8. So you know your shim is 2.8, and you know that you had to increase. This is the shim it was 102, or that was the gap, you know? And you want to end up at 0.19. These get tighter as they close, so you want to lean towards the larger gap, or I do, so that they wear in. So 0.19, and you're at 102, which means you want to lose about 0.8. That'll put you at 182, you know, right in between. You know, losing 0.9 is a little bit, probably a little bit too much, but let's just say 0.8. So you need to lose 0.8 off of that shim that was 280. So 280 minus, or you know, 2.80 minus 0.08, you're going to end up at 2.72. And you kind of round down because the shim kit comes in 5s. Increments of 0.05. So you end up somewhere around you know, 0.7, 2.7 if you scroll, if you you know, which I'm actually all out of because you know, they've all been pretty consistent, and I'm ripping through these 2.65 and 2.70. So, you know, you might run into that, and then you gotta order more, and then you gotta wait, and it turns into a shitty job, but you do this for a while, and then you're gonna have extras. And every time I measure the old ones, I put them back in. So, you know, I measured them out, it's 2.81, so I put it in the 2.8, and then you got it for next time. So you've got your new shim. Just want to very carefully place it into where it goes. You're going to have to shimmy it around a little bit. You'll read up on it, you know, people prefer different shims. Some of them have a little bit too large of an OD, and they don't sit in there nice. These are a little snug, but if you get them just right, they'll sit right in there. Little tight quarters in here, but so there it is, sitting in there. So you take your rocker arm, flip it up, set it back in. I give it the full rotation. Let the lifter push the spring down. Make sure it's seated. You go back in with your feeler gauge. You know, it's supposed to be, again, 0.13 to 1.9. So I start big. Well, here's one. 0.07 of an inch is 178 millimeter. Yep. So now it's hard to see, but anyway, you just check it right in there with your feeler gauge. Double check it to make sure your calculations are right. Adjust it if you need to, but that's basically it. And then you just go all the way down, every single one. It's a little tedious, but you can do it yourself. It's easy. Till next time.